On June 13, 2025, the world witnessed a dramatic escalation in the Middle Eastern region where Israel launched Operation Rising Lion on Iran. Now, this marks a significant shift from Israel's coveted attacks to a full-blown military confrontation. Hello and welcome to Drishti IAS. My name is Saloni Nankulier, and in this video, we will understand the impact of this operation on the global geopolitics as well as on India. So on 13th June 2025, Israel launched Operation Rising Lion, which was a full-scale military campaign targeting Iran's nuclear and missile infrastructure. So some key military infrastructure and nuclear infrastructure was targeted, like the Natanz uranium enrichment facility. This was also one of the areas which was identified and targeted. So over 200 Israeli Air Force jets, they hit more than 100 targets in this airstrike across Iran, and some key figures were assassinated. So these were people that were heads of the armed forces as well as some prominent nuclear scientists, like the Chief of Staff of Iranian Armed Forces, Commander of Revolutionary Guards, Commander of Iran's Emergency Command, and 6 prominent nuclear scientists. So nuclear infrastructure was targeted, military infrastructure was targeted, heads of the armed forces were killed, and also prominent nuclear scientists were killed. So now the leaders of both the nations, they have also reacted strongly to it. When Netanyahu has called this a decisive moment in Israel's history, and Khamenei has warned Israel that it has sealed a bitter and painful destiny. So even before this, there was a series of conflict between Israel and Iran, but they were mostly engaged in proxy warfare. There was no direct confrontation. But with this operation, Israel has made it clear that it has shifted its approach from hidden or coveted attacks to a direct, open confrontation. So the history of conflict between the two nations, it goes back to centuries ago. It all started in 586 BCE. So Jerusalem is a holy site which has been contested by 3 major religions of the world, which are Christianity, Islam, and Judaism. So in 586 BCE, the Jewish temple, the first Jewish temple, was destroyed by Babylon, which is the ancient Persia region. So in ancient times, this conflict was more religious in nature. But in the modern times, it is more like political in nature. And it can be divided into 2 eras, which is the pre-1979 era and the post-1979 era. So what happened in 1979? In 1979, Iranian Revolution happened, also known as Islamic Revolution. So this Iranian revolution was a revolution against the authoritarian leadership in Iran. So when that leadership was overthrown and Iran became an Islamic republic, it adopted a strong anti-Israel stance. So Israel became a nation in 1948, but ever since its inception, it has been struggling to get recognition from the major Arab nations. Because these Arab nations, they support the two-nation theory and they want Israel and Palestine to be two separate nations. So that is the reason that a lot of the nations in the world do not recognize Israel as a full-fledged nation. And in 1979, once the leadership changed in Iran and Iran became an Islamic republic, it went out and above to declare that it does not recognize Israel as a nation, and it follows an anti-Israel approach. So Iran started backing proxy military groups like Hamas in Palestine, Hezbollah in Lebanon, and Houthis in Yemen. These were some military groups that Iran started funding and training to attack Israel from different fronts. And this naturally left Israel feeling threatened for its existence, and it developed advanced missile defense system like the Iron Dome defense system and took covert action to sabotage Iran's nuclear program. So Israel does not want Iran to be a nuclear power, a nuclear weapon state. So it has been carrying out these covert or hidden operations, and it keeps targeting the nuclear facilities in Iran to stop it from becoming a nuclear weapon state. But what is Operation Rising Lion and why did it happen now? So to understand this, we need to focus on 2 key incidents that happened in the timeline. Number 1 was October 7, 2023, and number 2 was in early 2025. So on October 7, 2023, Hamas, which is a militant group that is supported by Iran, it launched a surprise attack on Israel. which severely destroyed its major cities and also affected its civilian population. So ever since 7th October 2023, Israel has been strategically working to weaken Iran's proxies like Hamas, Hezbollah, and Houthis in these different nations by carrying out covert assassinations and also a cyber war. So there was a cyber attack that Israel launched on Iran, which is known as Stuxnet. So ever since 7th October 2023, Israel has been working to weaken Iran's proxies and has been launching airstrikes and cyber attacks to weaken Iran. And the second one happened in early 2025, where Iran launched something known as the Operation True Promise. Operation True Promise 3. This was an operation that was launched by Iran on Israel, and this again caused major destruction to Israel. So these were some two key incidents that happened on the timeline, which kind of provoked or instigated Israel to take retaliatory action in the form of June 13th Operation Rising Lion. So just a day before Operation Rising Lion, something interesting happened. That was on June 12th. There was a resolution that was passed by IAEA, which is the International Atomic Energy Agency. This passed a resolution that condemned Iran's nuclear violations. So the world has been asking Iran to stop its nuclear enrichment research, but Iran has always been denying the allegations, and it has been mentioning that these research operations are only for peaceful purposes. But the world feels otherwise, and that is the reason Iran also keeps facing a lot of sanctions by the US. So on 12th of June, the IAEA passed a resolution which condemned Iran's nuclear violations. And just a day after this resolution, Israel launched Operation Rising Lion, which specifically targeted the nuclear facilities, uranium enrichment facilities in Iran to stop it from becoming a nuclear weapon state. So this target included nuclear sites, air defenses, command centers, and also assassination of key individuals. Israel used bunker besting bombs and laser-based defense upgrades to protect against retaliation. So these were some things that happened in Operation Rising Lion. And if you look at the international involvement, so no nation has come out directly and mentioned that they have been supporting Israel or Iran, but there have been speculations that US has been indirectly involved in supporting Israel. So although officially it is non-involved, but evidence suggests that there have been indirect support. In fact, US has been encouraging Saudi to increase its oil production so that the price of Iranian oil can go down. So these are some speculations that are being made that US is supporting Israel because US and Israel are allies, but it has not been officially stated. In Europe also, some Western European nations have backed the IAEA resolution, which again was anti-Iran and pro-Israel. And Arab states also have a Shia-Sunni conflict. So Iran is a Shia state, and the Arab states always have the Shia-Sunni conflict, which causes instability in the Middle Eastern region. So there are some international players that are involved, though they are unofficially involved. But if you look at the global impact of this operation, first impact could be on the oil prices. There is a speculation that the oil prices can go up because the Middle Eastern region is the major oil production area in the world. And if there is instability or a war-like situation in that region, so there could be sanctions that can be placed on Iran, which could disrupt the oil flow in the global economy, and the prices can in turn go up. And Iran also has a close proximity to Strait of Hormuz, which controls 20% of the world's global oil trade. So that can also be severely affected. The Suez Canal region can also see instability, and then that can also cause a disruption in the global economy because a lot of major trade happens through Suez Canal, through the Strait of Hormuz. So if there is instability in the Middle Eastern region, this can severely impact the global economy. And then there could be risk of inflation, supply chain disruptions, and stock market instability. And geopolitically also, there could be uncertainty because there can be a potential Middle Eastern war. And what is the impact that India can have? So India's energy security can also be severely threatened because we are highly dependent on the oil imports that we make from Middle Eastern region. So if Iran faces a lot of sanctions or the oil prices in general, they go up, we'll have to face a lot of inflationary issues in terms of, and our energy security can be threatened. Then diaspora concerns. So there are approximately 9 million Indians approximately 9 million Indians who are living in the Gulf regions, and if there is instability or a war-like situation in these Gulf regions, an evacuation has to be performed, or if there will be a security threat that will hang on the lives of all these 9 million Indians. So there is a diaspora concern. Then there are remittances concern also, because we have a lot of people like these 9 million people who are working in the Gulf regions. They send money back to India. So there's a lot of remittance that comes from these Gulf areas to India. So if the lives of these peoples are threatened or the jobs of these peoples are threatened, the remittance for India is also going to fall down. Export and investment. So India makes a lot of import-export trade with the Middle East. So we import a lot of crude oil and we export the refined petroleum products, some gems and jewelry, electronic goods, engineered goods. So if there's instability in the region, if the trade is also going to get affected, and in turn, our balance sheets are also going to get affected. So globally, there's going to be a lot of impact, and on India also there's going to be a lot of impact in terms of energy security, diaspora, remittance, and the trade. So that was all for today's video, where we discussed that Iran-Israel conflict, it dates to centuries ago. It started as a religious conflict, but right now it is a political conflict which started in 1979, and ever since then it has only been deepening. Iran uses proxy methods like proxy militant groups. It backs and funds them to have these attacks on Israel, and Israel in turn retaliates with its strong defense system. We saw that US and some Western nations have supported Israel diplomatically and strategically, like the IAEA resolution and sanctions on Iran. And if there's any war, if there's a full-fledged war between Iran and Israel, or if there's instability in the Middle Eastern region, there could be potential oil supply disruptions via the Strait of Hormuz and economic instability. So this war or these operations are not going to do good for the Middle Eastern regions, and in turn also for global geopolitics. So the world should actually right now come together to have this solved diplomatically, so there are no further disruptions, no further destructions in the global economy or in the global supply chain. So now that you understand this topic, let us see if you can answer one question for prelims and one for mains. So with reference to the recent conflict between Israel and Iran, consider the following statements. Operation Rising Lion was launched by Iran in retaliation to Israeli airstrikes. The Strait of Hormuz is a critical choke point through which a significant portion of world's oil trade passes. The International Atomic Energy Agency recently passed a resolution against Iran for violating nuclear commitments. Which of the statements are correct? So 1 and 2 only, 2 and 3 only, 1 and 3 only, 1, 2 and 3. Also practice a question for mains. The June 2025 conflict between Iran and Israel marks a new phase in Middle Eastern geopolitics. Discuss the roots of this conflict, the global reactions to it, and its likely implications on India's strategic and economic interest. Try answering this question in 250 words. The PDF of this lecture will be provided to you on the Telegram channel. Thank you for watching the video, and until we meet the next time, please keep studying and keep revising.
For more informative content, like, share and subscribe, and do not forget to press the bell icon to get the notifications.